Emily. I'm one half of Mac-Talla tutoring, and today I am going to do a video showing you how to change your violin strings. Before we start, things that you will want to have ready: a dry microfiber cloth, sharp graphite pencil, all will be revealed, some peg compound, whatever brand you like to use, your strings of course, and a tuner if you use one, and of course your fiddle. Alright, so before I actually zoom in and show you, I'm going to give you a few things to be careful of, and I'll talk you through the process. So first things first, only change one string at a time. Inside your fiddle there is a sound post underneath the bridge which is not glued in. It's the tension that holds that in place, so only undo one at a time. It also helps you not get mixed up because your pegs aren't interchangeable, so they have to go back in the hole they came from. And it helps you keep your bridge in the right place as well. If your bridge moves, it's a pain to try and get it back into the right spot. So I mentioned having a dry microfiber cloth. I know some places online say to use different oils or water or anything to try and clean your fiddle. I personally wouldn't recommend it. It can damage the varnish. Unless you know exactly what varnish has been used and you've been advised by somebody who understands, then that's fine. But if you're not sure, dry cloth. If it needs a good sort out, then take it into a fiddle shop. We've got our strings here, looking down, obviously thickest G, D, A, E, and on the peg box it goes G, D, A, E. So this way around. We are going to undo one peg. Remember, just one at a time. There we go. Nice and slowly. Creaking always is a little bit scary. And you're going to loosen your fine tuner until you can feel that it's not in. There we go, as much as you can. Alright, so unwind your string. There we go. And then it just unhooks. So I've got ball strings there, and out it pops. Okay. If you haven't got a spare set of strings, and the strings that you got are still just about usable, you might want to hold on to them in case you break one. That's up to you. So next up, we're going to take the peg compound that I mentioned. Up to you which one you use. I've got the Hill compound. You're going to take your peg, and you can see here it's quite shiny where it's been in contact with the fiddle. So anywhere that this is going to come into contact with the peg box, so there's going to be two main points of contact here, give it a good rub with your peg compound. So it's not absolutely essential that you do this, but it is definitely good practice. It's worth doing. Counterintuitively, it helps your pegs stay in place, and obviously it looks after your pegs. It's good for them. There we can see, it's not the prettiest, but it'll do the job. Alright, next up we are going to use the pencil. Suspense is up if you were wondering why we needed a pencil to change our strings. So we're going to use a nice sharp pencil, and it will be used to lubricate the nut here and the bridge. Now this is really important. It helps the string move freely, especially over the bridge. So anywhere that the string is going to come into contact with the fiddle, obviously there could be friction. And on the bridge, if you think every time you tune it, you're probably going to be pulling it that way, especially when you first put the string in. And over time, it can pull your bridge forward and it can warp it. So it's really helpful to put plenty of pencil in the notch. Okay. Oh, also you'll see here, there's actually a bridge protector on most E strings, which is just a little bit of plastic. So obviously you can miss the step of drawing on the bridge when you have got your bridge protector. So I'm gonna clean the underneath the fingerboard, underneath the string, sorry. Just a dry microfiber cloth. Give it a good rub while you've got the chance. It is amazing how much rosin builds up, even if you wipe it in between there. Okay, that will do. So I'm going to get my new string. There we go. And first things first, I'm going to make a little kink about 2 millimeters from the end here. So a bit of an L shape. There we go. Okay, so we've got our L shape, and we're going to carefully thread it into the hole here. That's it. There we go, so we're winding the peg away from us. This is the really fiddly bit. There we go. So what you want to do is give it one wind where the little tail is on the thicker side of the peg. What we're going to do is we're going to give it one wind on the thinner side. When we've done one complete turn, you're going to switch so that the tail is now on the right hand side and you're now winding towards the thicker end of the peg. This gives it a locking turn, I suppose it's called, and means that the string's going to stay in place. So then you're going to neatly as possible wind it towards the edge, this outside edge, aiming to have it as close to the edge but not touching, because that is not very good for your strings or for your fiddle. Okay, so once you've given it a few winds, it should stay in place for you. You're going to take it between your thumb and your finger, give it a little bit of a bend, and gently, that's it, wind it down right towards the end. So once you get to this end, you're going to pop it into the fine tuner here. So if you've got a ball, then it'll just pop right in like that. Be careful to push it in far enough. That's it. Okay. And then, keeping the tension in this string, you're going to keep winding. Alright, and then just removing the slack. You don't want to go all the way up to the pitch in one go. So careful not to over tighten. Make sure that as you tighten it, you're in the right notches and there's no tangling at the top. And then just tighten it until there's no slack. To get your peg to stay in place, you'll probably need to push in a little bit as you tighten it. There we go. So we'll leave it at that for now. Okay, that's the G string done. Okay, so I'm going to do the D string next, which is second from the left. I'm going to start out, I'm going to loosen the string off this peg here. Okay. Unwind that and out it comes. Just unhook it from the ball end. Alright, so chances are it's going to look quite shiny on your peg wherever it touches, but it'll be in two places. Next, you're going to take your sharp pencil. So you've got the nut here. So very important that you do this because it helps the string slide over the fiddle whenever you're tuning it. Give your fingerboard a good clean with a dry microfiber cloth. and you're going to carefully thread it through. This is the finicky bit, until it sits about level. That's it. Okay. And then, keeping a bit of tension on this long bit of string, first of all you're going to do one complete turn on this side, on the thinner side of the tail. Just like this, as close to the tail as you can manage. When you've done a complete turn, you're going to switch, and we're now working towards the wider edge of the peg. So you'll want to be on the other side of the tail, like this. Okay, the reason that we're doing that is it keeps the string in place, so it's a locking turn. Okay, so now we're just going to keep winding as neatly as you can towards the thicker side of the peg. That's it. Remember, you're aiming to be close to here, but not touching the peg box and not crossing over your other strings. So there's a bit of a knack to it, but I'm confident you'll get there. Okay, I'm going to leave it at that. So I'm now going to use my thumb and forefinger, slightly bend it and run all the way down the string and pop it into the fine tuner at the end, so it should just sit nicely like that. There we go. Okay, then keeping the tension, we're just going to keep winding the top here and just remove the slack. We're not aiming to get it perfectly in pitch just yet. We're just, there we go, removing the slack. Make sure that your string is sat in the right place in the nut and the right place in the bridge before you tighten any more. And then just remember to push in as you're tightening. Okay, and we'll leave it at that for now and let it sit for a minute, and I'll change the other strings. Okay, so I've changed my strings now, changed all of them. So what am I checking? Alright, you want to check that everything's nice and tidy in here. Shouldn't have any strings kind of crisscrossing at this bit. The winds are all moving out towards the edge of the peg box, but none of them are cutting into the wood at the side. It's really important that. I'm also going to check my bridge, that it's still straight. You don't want it leaning forward. It's important to keep an eye on your bridge, actually, while we're here. If you think about as your strings stretch and settle in, then there's quite a likelihood that it will get pulled forward. So just keep an eye that it stays straight. And it's now time to gradually tune the fiddle. So I use a tuner for this. It's up to you whether you want to do it by ear or old school with a tuning fork. I do it quite gradually. You don't want to stretch the strings all at once. And you want to be very careful not to overstretch them at this point. Keep checking your bridge as you go, and remember that your strings do have a settle in time or breaking in before they sound their best, so you're going to need to keep tuning them basically for the next little while. How long will vary, depend on your strings, but loosen off all of your fine tuners. You'll feel when it comes out the thread, so just make sure it's still sat in the thread, but loosen it as far as you can go so that you can do some adjustments on your fine tuners over the next few days. My advice, every time you have to touch the pegs to tune, loosen your fine tuners while you're there. And that is everything. Okay, good luck everybody.